Jack Morrow was not the kind of man who sought attention. He lived on the edge of human space, in a small repair station that floated near a quiet asteroid belt. Most people in the sector knew him as the human mechanic who could fix almost anything: ships that were too old, systems that were too broken, engines that had failed in the middle of nowhere. Aliens often came to him because they had no other choice. They whispered about his skills, though they did so reluctantly, afraid of drawing too much attention. Jack didn't mind. He liked the quiet. He liked the hum of machinery. He liked the smell of oil and ozone, the soft vibrations that ran through the metal under his hands. He had been working on a freighter that morning, tightening bolts on an old engine core, when a message came through the station's comm. It was unusual because most messages were about parts, clients, or emergencies. This one was formal, short, from the Galactic Council. "Jack Morrow," the message said, "you have been named custodian of the vessel Infinity's Dawn. Further instructions will follow." Jack stared at the screen, his hand still holding a wrench. He blinked slowly. The name meant nothing to him, but something in the tone of the message made him uneasy. He wiped his hands on a rag and tried to shake off the feeling. "Probably some scam," he muttered to himself. "Some counselor looking to annoy me." But the next day, things became impossible to ignore. A small transport ship arrived at his station. It was sleek, almost delicate compared to the enormous message it carried. Inside, an official from the council, a tall human woman named Claire Hall, handed him a datapad. "Jack Morrow," Claire said politely, "I know this may be confusing. The council has transferred ownership of a vessel to you. It is not a simple task, but it is necessary." Jack frowned. "You're joking, you mean some ship?" Claire shook her head. "The largest ship ever built by humans. It has been dormant for centuries. It now belongs to you." Jack felt his stomach tighten. He had worked on old ships, massive freighters, and even a few war vessels that had been retired, but he had never dealt with something on this scale. The words sounded surreal. "Biggest ship in the galaxy," he whispered. The phrase echoed in his mind. It sounded too much like a story from old human legends, the ones his grandfather used to tell him about, the great starships that had once carried humans across the galaxy. Those ships were always lost, forgotten, or destroyed. "Why me?" Jack asked. He couldn't hide the tension in his voice. "The Council believes that humans have a role in maintaining this vessel," Claire replied. "You are known for your skills and integrity. The ship responds to humans. It requires someone like you." Jack swallowed. The notion that a ship could respond to him sounded insane. Ships didn't respond, they followed programming, obeyed commands, and occasionally malfunctioned. Nothing more. But Claire's serious expression told him she wasn't joking. He tried to imagine stepping onto such a vessel. It must be massive, larger than any station he had ever visited, larger than entire fleets. A place where one human could easily get lost, swallowed by endless corridors, engines that stretched for kilometers, and systems that hummed with ancient power. "I'll need time," Jack said finally. "I need to think about this." Claire nodded. "We expected that." "But the Council warns, this is urgent. Others are watching. The ship has not been idle for long. It will choose or it may react." Jack didn't understand, but he didn't have time to ask. The Council official left, leaving him staring at the datapad, feeling the weight of a responsibility he hadn't asked for. For the rest of the day, he wandered through his small station, touching tools, listening to engines, trying to calm the strange feeling rising inside him. It was a mix of fear, awe, and confusion. The news spread quickly. By the next day, Jack's quiet station was buzzing. Aliens and humans alike wanted to know more. Some were curious, some were angry, some were fearful. Whispers filled the corridors of the station. "The human mechanic has the Infinity's Dawn?" Jack ignored them mostly, but a small part of him worried. The Infinity's Dawn had been lost for hundreds of years. Stories about it were filled with mystery and sometimes horror. It was said that no human had ever truly controlled it. Crews sent to explore it either never returned or came back changed. The ship itself was almost like a living entity, listening, choosing, judging. He spent the next night staring at the stars from the station's observation deck, thinking. He thought about his life, his simple routines, his quiet days repairing engines and circuits. Now everything seemed fragile, meaningless compared to the enormity of what was being placed in his hands. He had never wanted attention, yet suddenly he felt the eyes of the galaxy upon him. The next morning, he received another message, this one with coordinates. The Infinity's dawn had been drifting in the outer reaches of human space, beyond the fringe worlds. A transport ship would bring him to the entry point. He knew he couldn't refuse. Something in the message hinted that refusal was not an option, that the ship would not simply wait. He packed his tools, nothing fancy, just what he needed to do his work. Lucy Carter, a young engineer he had trained years ago, insisted on coming with him. "If anyone can handle that thing, it's you," she said, her voice steady, but Jack could see the excitement and worry behind her calm words. Ben Ross, a pilot who had flown him through asteroid belts, meteor storms, and alien blockades, volunteered as well. "I've seen some big ships," Ben said, grinning, "but nothing like this. We're gonna need nerves of steel." As they approached the coordinates, the outline of the ship appeared against the blackness of space. Jack's breath caught. It was impossible to fully understand its scale from a distance. Kilometers of hull stretched in every direction, lights flickering as if the ship were breathing. Enormous engines, long abandoned, still glimmered faintly. Docking ports lined the sides like the scales of some ancient beast. The transport ship carried them slowly, almost cautiously, toward the docking bay. The closer they got, the more Jack felt the ship's presence. It was not mechanical in the way he understood machines. It was aware. It seemed to pulse, to shift slightly, as if measuring his fear, his hesitation. Jack's hands shook slightly as he gripped the edge of the transport's console. "You okay?" Lucy asked. She looked at him, eyes wide but calm. Jack nodded, though he was. "I don't know," he admitted. "It's bigger than anything I've imagined, and it's like it knows I'm here." "Maybe it does," Ben said, "but we'll handle it together." The docking process was tense. The ship's bay doors were enormous, opening with a slow hiss, revealing a dark interior that seemed endless. Jack felt a cold pressure in his chest, a tightening of his stomach. Every instinct screamed that stepping inside would be dangerous, and yet he knew he had to. As his feet touched the floor of the Infinity's dawn, the lights along the corridor flickered on in response. The walls gleamed faintly, lined with panels and markings he had never seen. The air smelled metallic but strangely fresh, like it had been filtered through centuries of quiet. Every step he took echoed, though the echoes seemed to come from far away, as if the ship itself were aware of the intrusion. Jack paused, swallowing hard. "It's alive," he whispered. He did not mean literally, but it was the only way to describe the sensation. The ship seemed to breathe with him, to wait, to watch. Lucy moved beside him. "It's waiting for you," she said, her voice low. "Maybe it's testing us." Jack nodded, though the fear remained. He had faced difficult repairs before, pirates, storms, engine failures. Nothing had ever made him feel so small, so uncertain, so completely aware that he was alone in the presence of something older and greater than he could understand. The first hours inside the ship passed slowly. Jack inspected panels, checked the hull integrity, ran diagnostics on engines that had not moved for centuries. He discovered rooms that seemed endless, halls that looped impossibly, stairways that led to nowhere. The scale was overwhelming. Every corner revealed new systems, strange technology, and symbols that hinted at knowledge long forgotten. Yet amid the fear, Jack felt a spark of awe. He was a human, small and fragile, but he was also a mechanic, a problem solver, someone capable of understanding things others could not. And this ship, for all its size and mystery, had chosen him. By the end of the day, as they set up a small command station within the ship's bay, Jack sat back and let out a long sigh. Fear still lingered, but it was mixed now with something else. Curiosity, determination, and the strange pride of a man entrusted with a task beyond imagination. He did not yet know the challenges the Infinity's dawn would present, nor the dangers that waited inside its infinite corridors. But he knew this: his life would never be simple again. He was no longer just a human mechanic. He was the custodian of the biggest ship in the galaxy. And that realization filled him with both awe and fear. In equal measure, Jack Morrow stepped carefully into the main corridor of the Infinity's dawn, his heart pounding with every step. The floor beneath him hummed faintly, as if the ship recognized his presence. Lucy and Ben followed closely, their faces serious but alert. Every panel, every door, every shadow seemed alive, almost aware of them moving through the vast space. "It's bigger than I imagined," Ben said quietly, his voice echoing in the corridor. "I've flown some massive ships, but nothing like this." Jack nodded. He did not answer right away. He was too busy trying to take in the sheer size of the hallways. The ceilings were high, disappearing into shadows above. The walls were lined with panels, buttons, and screens that flickered faintly when he approached. Some screens showed star maps, others showed strange symbols he could not read. "It's like it's alive," Jack said finally. "Like it's watching us." Lucy glanced around nervously. "Maybe it is. We've read stories about ships built by humans long ago. Some were designed to respond to human presence, even human thoughts." Jack swallowed. The idea made him uneasy. He had always believed machines followed commands. Engines burned fuel, circuits carried power, software obeyed logic. But this ship was different. It felt aware. It felt like it judged him with every step. They moved deeper into the ship, following a corridor that seemed endless. The lights shifted as they walked, illuminating areas only when they approached, leaving the rest in darkness. Jack noticed that some doors opened by themselves, revealing rooms that looked abandoned but intact. Old furniture, strange machines, and consoles that flickered with power. "Look at this," Lucy said, pointing to a console. "It's old human design but advanced, way beyond anything we've ever seen." Jack crouched to examine it. The symbols on the screen were strange, but the interface seemed to respond to his touch. He ran a hand over a panel and the screen lit up fully. A map appeared showing sections of the ship, some labeled in old human language, others in symbols he did not recognize. A chill ran down his spine. "This map, it's alive," he murmured. "It changes when I move." Ben frowned. "That's impossible. Maps don't change." Jack shook his head. "Not maps like this. It's like the ship is showing us what it wants us to see." They continued walking, and the corridors seemed to stretch on forever. Sometimes a door would appear, leading to a room full of machinery. Other times, a hallway would bend in a way that seemed impossible. Jack began to notice that the ship responded to their emotions. When fear or hesitation showed on his face, lights dimmed slightly and the corridors seemed to narrow. When he forced himself to step forward with determination, the paths opened wider, almost as if encouraging him. "This is strange," Lucy whispered. "I've never felt anything like it. It's not just a ship, it's something else." Jack did not answer. He was focused on keeping his fear under control. He knew that the ship reacted to humans, and he was not sure what it would do if he showed weakness. Every instinct told him to be careful, to move slowly, to respect the ship's power. Hours passed as they explored. Jack checked engines, inspected control panels, and tested systems that had been dormant for centuries. The ship groaned softly as if stretching, its massive engines stirring slightly, though they did not ignite. Every action he took seemed to awaken something deep within the vessel. "It's huge," Ben said finally, stopping to catch his breath. "We've been walking for hours, and I don't think we've even seen half of it." Jack nodded. He felt the weight of responsibility pressing on him. This was not just a ship. It was a vessel of history, a machine built by humans long ago with a purpose he did not yet understand. And it had chosen him to care for it, to awaken it, and perhaps to judge him as well. They entered a room filled with strange machines and glowing panels. It looked like a control center, but unlike anything Jack had seen before. Screens floated in the air, showing star systems, energy flows, and strange symbols. A large console dominated the center of the room, its surface smooth and glowing faintly. Jack approached it cautiously. As he placed his hands on the console, the screens lit up fully. He saw images of ships, planets, and strange structures. Some images moved, showing events from long ago. He realized with a shock that the ship was recording history, not just its own, but the history of humans across the galaxy. "It knows everything," Jack whispered. "Everything humans have done, and maybe everything we will do." Lucy and Ben exchanged uneasy glances. The feeling in the room was intense, almost suffocating. Jack felt a mixture of fear and awe. He was touching history that had been hidden for centuries, and the ship was revealing it to him. "Jack," Lucy said softly, "we need to be careful. This ship, it's testing us, I think. Every move we make, every thought we have, it's watching." Jack nodded. He knew she was right. He felt the weight of the ship's awareness pressing on him. Every decision, every step, every action mattered. He could not afford to be careless. They spent the next several hours exploring more corridors, discovering rooms filled with strange technology, sleeping quarters that looked untouched for centuries, and storage areas holding supplies that seemed impossibly advanced. Jack marveled at the engineering, the precision, the care that had gone into building the Infinity's Dawn. It was a masterpiece far beyond anything he had ever imagined. But despite the awe, the fear never left. The ship was too big, too alive, too aware. Sometimes when Jack paused, he felt the corridors shift, as if the ship itself were breathing around him. Lights would flicker, doors would open and close, and the air would hum with energy. It was a constant reminder that he was not just exploring a ship. He was interacting with something alive, something that had been waiting for humans for centuries. As they explored, Jack discovered a room that seemed to be a laboratory. Strange machines lined the walls, and in the center of the room was a large console covered in symbols he did not recognize. He approached cautiously, and the console lit up, showing images of humans and aliens working together, ships traveling through space, and planets being colonized. He realized with a start that the ship had recorded the history of not just humans, but the galaxy itself. "This ship is more than a vessel," Jack said softly. "It's a keeper of knowledge, a recorder of history." Lucy nodded. "And maybe it's deciding what to show us, what to hide. It's testing our judgment, our choices." Jack felt a chill. The responsibility was immense. This was not just a repair job or an exploration mission. He was dealing with a ship that could judge humans, that could choose who was worthy of its secrets. As they moved on, they encountered corridors that seemed to challenge them. Some paths looped in impossible ways, others led to rooms that vanished when they turned their backs. Jack realized that the ship was not just alive, it was conscious. It tested them, guided them, and perhaps even warned them. "It wants us to prove ourselves," Jack said finally, his voice low. "It wants to see if we are ready." Ben shivered. "Ready for what? This thing could crush us like bugs if it wanted." Jack nodded. He knew the danger. Every step inside the Infinity's dawn was a test. He could feel the power beneath his hands, the intelligence in the walls, and the judgment in the lights. This was not a ship to be controlled. It was a ship to be respected. They spent the next several days inside, exploring, repairing, and learning. Jack discovered that the ship's engines were functional but dormant, its weapons long deactivated, and its navigation systems unmatched in complexity. Every system he touched seemed to respond to him, as if recognizing him as the human custodian. The ship was teaching him, testing him, and perhaps even trusting him, yet fear remained. Jack could not shake the feeling that the ship was larger and older than anything he had imagined. It was alive, aware, and judging every move he made. He knew that one wrong step, one careless action, could have consequences he could not predict. By the end of the week, Jack, Lucy, and Ben had mapped significant portions of the ship. They had begun repairs, activated some systems, and learned how the ship responded to human presence. Yet the Infinity's dawn remained a mystery, its full power and purpose hidden. Jack sat alone in the control room one evening, staring at the glowing panels. He felt a mixture of fear, awe, and responsibility. The ship was enormous, alive, and aware. It had chosen him, and now he had to prove that humans were worthy of its trust. "We're not alone," he whispered to himself. "This ship, it's alive, and it's watching us." He knew that the real challenge was just beginning. The Infinity's dawn was more than a ship. It was a test, a living entity, and a keeper of knowledge. Jack realized that if he failed, the consequences could be catastrophic. Yet if he succeeded, he could unlock secrets that no human had seen in centuries. As he prepared to rest, Jack felt the weight of the ship's presence. It was a constant reminder that he was not just a mechanic anymore. He was the human chosen to awaken the Infinity's dawn, to explore its endless halls, and to face the unknown within. The fear remained, but so did a spark of determination. He would not fail. He could not fail. The Infinity's dawn awaited him, alive and aware, its corridors stretching endlessly, its secrets hidden in shadows, and its judgment waiting for the human who had dared to step inside. Jack Morrow had begun to understand the Infinity's dawn in small ways. He knew that it responded to human presence, that it shifted corridors, lit pathways, and displayed information based on his thoughts and actions. Yet the full purpose of the ship remained a mystery. Every day brought new rooms, strange symbols, and systems that seemed to hold knowledge older than any human history he had learned. He and Lucy moved through a corridor lined with what looked like archives. Panels rose from the floor and walls, each glowing faintly. Ben stayed behind in the control hub, monitoring communications and ensuring the ship remained stable. "Look at this," Lucy whispered. She pressed a panel and images appeared on a floating screen. Humans working alongside machines, exploring planets, building colonies, and sometimes fighting battles. The scenes changed as Jack approached, showing events in time that he had only read about in history books. "It's recording history," Jack said, "but not just ours." "Look, those are alien civilizations too," Lucy nodded. "It knows everything humans and other species have done, and maybe it's judging it." Jack swallowed. The thought made him uneasy. The ship had been dormant for centuries, waiting for someone to awaken it. He now realized that its tests were not random. It wanted to see if humans were worthy of its knowledge and power. "Why would humans build a ship like this?" Jack asked. "Why leave it to sit in the void waiting for centuries?" Lucy shrugged. "Maybe it was a safeguard, a test. Something to remind future generations of what humans were capable of." Jack felt a chill. The idea that humans had created a ship that could judge entire species was frightening. It suggested that the infinity's dawn was more than a vessel. It was a measure, a tool to see if humanity had grown beyond its own violence and greed. They moved deeper into the ship, following corridors that seemed to shift slightly with each step. Doors appeared where none had been, and rooms changed subtly when they returned. Jack noticed that the ship seemed to react to his thoughts. When he hesitated, lights dimmed. When he focused on understanding, panels glowed and revealed hidden systems. "It's alive," Jack said quietly, "and it's teaching us." Lucy glanced at him. "Or testing us, both maybe." As they approached a large chamber, Jack noticed the air felt different. It was warmer, almost electric, and the hum of the ship grew louder like a heartbeat. The chamber's doors slid open automatically. Inside, a massive console stretched across the center, with floating screens displaying streams of data, star maps, and strange symbols. Jack approached carefully, placing his hands on the console. The screens shifted, showing images of humans exploring space long ago. Then the images changed, showing humans building the infinity's dawn itself. Jack realized with a start that the ship had been designed by humans as a test, a safeguard, and a judge. This was us," Jack whispered. "Humans built it to test humans," Lucy nodded slowly. "It makes sense. If a ship like this existed, it would be a way to see if humans had matured, to see if we could handle power responsibly." Jack stared at the screens. The images shifted again, showing wars, conquests, and moments of greed and violence. Then the screens showed acts of kindness, cooperation, and innovation. The ship seemed to be weighing everything, evaluating what humans were capable of. "So it's judging us?" Ben asked, his voice tense over the communicator. Jack nodded. "Yes, and it's judging me too. Every choice we make, every action, it's watching." They spent hours in the chamber, exploring the ship's archives and learning how it measured human behavior. Jack discovered that the infinity's dawn had systems capable of immense power, far beyond anything humans currently controlled. Weapons, engines, and technologies that could alter entire star systems lay dormant, waiting for the ship to judge who was worthy. "This is dangerous," Lucy said finally. "If the wrong person got control of this ship," Jack shivered. He understood the truth. The infinity's dawn was not meant to be a weapon, not meant to be controlled by greed. It was a test of judgment, responsibility, and restraint. And he realized that the council had chosen him because they believed he could pass it. Days passed as Jack, Lucy, and Ben explored further. The ship revealed more of its secrets, guiding them to rooms filled with advanced technology, dormant engines, and weapon systems. Every time they approached a system, the ship seemed to test them. When they showed patience and care, systems activated safely. When they rushed or acted recklessly, doors closed, lights dimmed, and corridors shifted to block their path. One day, Jack discovered a room that was unlike any other. It was a chamber filled with glowing spheres, each containing images of entire star systems, planets, and civilizations. The spheres floated in the air, moving slowly as if alive. Jack reached out to touch one, and a vision appeared before him, humans exploring a planet, building a settlement, facing both success and failure. "It's showing us possibilities," Jack said. "Not just the past, the future too," Lucy nodded. "It's trying to teach us. Show us what humans can do and what they should avoid." Jack realized that the ship's purpose was not just observation. It was a guide, a teacher, and a judge. It had been waiting for someone capable of understanding its lessons, someone who could make wise decisions for the future. And now it had chosen him, but fear remained. Jack knew that the power of the infinity's dawn was immense. In the wrong hands, it could destroy entire civilizations. And yet, in his hands, it could become a force for knowledge, cooperation, and growth. As they continued exploring, the ship began to react more strongly to Jack's presence. Corridors opened more easily, panels glowed with information, and systems responded almost instantly to his touch. It was clear that the ship trusted him more with every careful step. Yet the ship also tested him in unexpected ways. One corridor looped endlessly, forcing Jack to make choices about direction, patience, and reasoning. Another room contained puzzles of logic and machinery, requiring him to repair ancient systems with precision and care. Every success increased his confidence, but every mistake reminded him of the danger. "It's like it's alive," Ben said one evening. "I've never seen anything like this. It reacts to us, feels our fear, our choices." Jack nodded. He understood fully now. The ship was not a machine in the traditional sense. It was a living intelligence, created by humans to measure humans, guide them, and challenge them. It was testing not just skills, but character. As the days passed, Jack began to feel a strange bond with the Infinity's dawn. He learned its rhythms, understood its systems, and felt its judgment in subtle ways. It was like working with a living partner, sometimes challenging, sometimes frustrating, but always guiding and teaching. One evening, Jack discovered a hidden chamber deep within the ship. It was a library of sorts, filled with holographic records, star charts, and human designs for future civilizations. The room was silent, except for the hum of the ship. Jack reached out to a hologram and it responded, showing him plans for exploration, cooperation, and innovation. He realized that the Infinity's dawn was not just a test, it was a tool for shaping the future. "This is incredible," Lucy said. "It's not just a ship, it's a teacher, a guide, a safeguard." Jack nodded. He felt the weight of responsibility heavier than ever. The ship had chosen him, and now it was teaching him how to be worthy of its trust. Every decision, every repair, every choice mattered. The Infinity's dawn was more than a vessel. It was a measure of humanity itself. Then one day they discovered something alarming. A signal from a rival species, a faction known for conquest and greed, approached the Infinity's dawn. They were aware of the ship's power and intended to seize it. Jack realized that the tests were not over. Now the real challenge would begin. He had to protect the ship, prove humanity's worth, and prevent its power from falling into the wrong hands. "They're coming for it," Ben said, his voice tense. "We need to prepare." Jack nodded. He felt fear but also determination. The Infinity's dawn had chosen him, and he would not fail. The ship's secrets were immense, its power unimaginable, and its judgment constant. Yet Jack understood something vital. The Infinity's dawn was not just a weapon. It was a teacher, and it trusted him. He turned to Lucy. "We have to show them and ourselves that humans can handle this, wisely, carefully, without fear or greed." Lucy nodded. "We can do it." Together, Jack felt a surge of resolve. The Infinity's dawn awaited, alive and aware, its systems humming with power, its corridors endless, and its judgment constant. The real test had begun. He knew that the coming days would challenge everything he believed, everything he knew, and everything humans could achieve. Yet he also knew one thing. He was ready to face it because the Infinity's dawn had chosen him, and he would not fail. Jack Morrow stood at the central console of the Infinity's dawn, his hands resting lightly on the smooth surface. The ship hummed around him, a constant reminder of the immense power and intelligence it held. Lucy Carter and Ben Ross were nearby, scanning the sensors for any sign of the approaching faction. Jack had spent weeks learning the ship, understanding its tests, and growing more confident in his role as custodian. Yet now, for the first time, he felt the weight of true danger. "They're close," Ben said, pointing at the sensors. "Their ships are faster than anything I've ever seen. They know what's out here." Jack nodded, his mind racing. The rival faction had heard of the Infinity's dawn, and they would stop at nothing to take control of its systems. He knew that if they succeeded, the consequences could be catastrophic. The ship's power was immense, capable of altering entire star systems, and Jack was the only human it would fully respond to. Lucy placed a hand on his shoulder. "We can handle this. We know the ship. We understand it. It trusts us." Jack took a deep breath. He knew she was right. The Infinity's dawn had taught him patience, control, and judgment. It had tested him endlessly, and now it was counting on him to act wisely. Every decision, every action, every choice would matter. The first enemy ships appeared on the sensors, small and fast, but heavily armed. Jack felt a shiver of fear. He had never commanded a battle before, and yet here he was, responsible for the galaxy's most powerful vessel. The Infinity's dawn seemed to sense his hesitation. Lights along the corridors glowed brighter, panels shifted, and a soft hum filled the command room as if the ship were encouraging him to act. "Okay," Jack said finally, his voice steady. "We do this carefully, no rushing, no anger. We use the ship's systems, but only as the ship allows. We are not attacking to destroy, we are defending and testing our judgment." Ben raised an eyebrow. "So we let the ship fight, but we guide it," Jack nodded. "Exactly, the ship knows what it can do, we follow its lead." He reached out to the console, and the panels responded immediately. The ship's engines stirred, its defense systems activated, and shields glimmered across the massive hull. The enemy ships fired first, their lasers slicing through space. The Infinity's dawn shifted instantly, moving in ways Jack could barely understand. Corridors inside the ship realigned, defensive turrets emerged, and energy pulses redirected the enemy fire harmlessly into empty space. "It's amazing," Lucy whispered. "It's not just defending, it's learning their patterns, predicting their moves." Jack felt a surge of awe. He had known the ship was powerful, but seeing it in action was beyond anything he imagined. The Infinity's dawn was alive, aware, and calculating. It was defending itself and testing him at the same time. As the battle continued, Jack noticed something alarming. The enemy ships were not just attacking, they were probing, trying to find weaknesses in the ship. One small vessel managed to get close to a shielded docking bay. Jack focused, recalling every lesson the ship had taught him. He guided the Infinity's dawn to shift the bay, redirect energy, and trap the enemy ship in a controlled force field without harming it. "They're testing us," Jack said quietly. "The ship wants us to show restraint." Lucy nodded. "We can do that, we have to." Hours passed. The enemy fleet was relentless, but the Infinity's dawn moved with precision, avoiding damage, protecting its crew, and demonstrating restraint and control. Jack realized that the true test was not defeating the enemy. It was proving that humans could wield power responsibly. Finally, the enemy faction launched a massive assault, concentrating fire on the Infinity's dawn's engines. Jack felt fear rise, but he remembered everything the ship had taught him. He took a deep breath, closed his eyes for a moment, and focused on the ship as if it were an extension of his own mind. The ship responded instantly. Shields flared, energy pulses deflected the attack, and the engines activated in perfect harmony. The Infinity's dawn moved like a living being, dodging attacks, using its size to create barriers, and guiding the enemy fleet away from critical systems. "It's working," Ben said, eyes wide. "We're controlling it, and it's controlling itself." Jack nodded, sweat running down his face. He felt fear, yes, but also an incredible connection with the Infinity's dawn. It was alive, aware, and trusting him. Every decision mattered, and he had learned to act with wisdom, patience, and restraint. After what felt like an eternity, the enemy fleet began to retreat. They had tested the ship, pushed its systems, but Jack and the Infinity's dawn had proven themselves. The rival faction realized that this vessel was not just a weapon to conquer. It was a guardian, a test, and a judge. Jack exhaled, relief washing over him. The ship's hum softened, corridors returned to their normal alignment, and panels dimmed to a gentle glow. The Infinity's dawn had accepted his decisions. It had judged him worthy. Lucy placed a hand on his shoulder. "You did it, Jack, we did it." Jack smiled faintly, though his body was still tense. "No," he said quietly. "The ship did it, we just followed its guidance. It taught us how to act, how to be responsible, how to lead without fear or greed." Ben shook his head in awe. "I've never seen anything like it. It's alive, and it trusts us." Jack walked through the corridors, touching panels, feeling the soft hum of energy beneath his hands. He realized that the Infinity's dawn was more than a ship. It was a teacher, a guardian, and a test of humanity. It had waited centuries for someone worthy, and now it had found them. Over the next few days, Jack, Lucy, and Ben repaired systems damaged in the battle and explored areas of the ship that had remained hidden. They discovered archives filled with knowledge about other civilizations, star systems, and technologies far beyond current human understanding. Jack realized that the Infinity's dawn was not just a ship of power. It was a library, a guide, and a legacy. "This knowledge," Lucy said one evening, "it could change everything. Humanity, the galaxy, if used wisely." Jack nodded. He understood the responsibility. The ship had trusted him, and he had to honor that trust. He could not use it for conquest, greed, or revenge. He had to show that humans could act responsibly, wisely, and with humility. As they continued their work, Jack made a decision. He would not take full control of the ship's power. Instead, he would open its knowledge to those who proved themselves worthy, sharing its guidance, and ensuring that its lessons were used to protect, teach, and inspire. The Infinity's dawn had tested humanity, and it had passed, not through strength or aggression, but through wisdom and restraint. One evening, Jack stood at the main observation deck looking out at the stars. The Infinity's dawn stretched endlessly around him, alive, aware, and humming with energy. He felt a deep connection with the vessel, a sense of purpose and a quiet pride. "We've done it," he said softly, "not just defended it, but proven ourselves worthy." Lucy smiled. "And now the galaxy can benefit from it." Jack nodded. He knew that the journey was far from over. There would always be challenges, new species, and new conflicts. But the Infinity's dawn would guide humanity, teach restraint, and show the way. And he would be its custodian, its student, and its friend. The next day, Jack activated a network that allowed other humans and allied species to access the Infinity's dawn's knowledge safely. Ships arrived to learn, scholars came to study, and the galaxy slowly began to understand the lessons the ship had preserved for centuries. Jack watched them, feeling a quiet satisfaction. He had faced fear, responsibility, and immense power. He had learned patience, judgment, and humility. And he had proven that humanity could rise to the challenge, not through force, but through wisdom. The Infinity's dawn hummed softly, corridors stretching endlessly, systems glowing with knowledge, and engines ready to move at a moment's notice. Jack knew that the ship would always test humanity, always guide, and always protect. And he would always be there, a human mechanic who had become the custodian of the largest and most powerful ship in the galaxy. He walked through the corridors one last time before resting, touching panels, feeling the soft vibrations, and listening to the hum. He understood the truth now. The Infinity's dawn was alive, aware, and wise. It had judged humanity, and humanity, through him, had answered correctly. Jack smiled faintly. Fear had been replaced with understanding, awe, and purpose. He was no longer just a mechanic. He was the guardian of knowledge, the custodian of power, and the bridge between humanity and the vast, living intelligence of the Infinity's dawn. And in the quiet of the ship, among endless corridors and glowing panels, Jack felt at peace. The galaxy was safe, the lessons would be shared, and humanity had passed the ultimate test. The Infinity's dawn waited, patient and eternal, ready to guide and protect for generations to come. He finally sat down, tired but satisfied, knowing that he had completed the greatest challenge of his life. Not by conquering, not by fighting, but by learning, understanding, and respecting the living ship that had chosen him. The Infinity's dawn hummed softly, almost like a purr, as if approving of its human custodian. Jack closed his eyes, letting the sound fill him with calm. The stars outside shimmered, reflecting the endless possibilities ahead. Humanity had been tested, and it had succeeded. Jack Morrow, the human mechanic, had entered the largest ship in the galaxy with fear. And now he stayed as its guardian, filled with awe, wisdom, and the quiet pride of one who had been chosen and proven worthy. The human mechanic receives the biggest ship in the galaxy, yet entering it fills him with fear.